Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we're doing another Who Did It Better comparative. It's not really a review, but it is essentially a review, so we're going to do another one of those. Now, it's been a little while since I filmed the Guile one, so I might not do it in the exact same format, but it's going to be pretty close, because I just winged it last time, and I'm going to wing it this time, and it'll probably be about the same wingage. So, we're going to compare the two. We're going to compare JADA and SOTA, Street Fighter, Cammy, and see who did it better. And if you guys didn't see the Guile video, you should go check it out. I'll put the link up there in the corner, or it'll be down in the description below. I guess the other thing I'll mention is the JADA figure is out now. There's a link in the description below for that if you want to get one. And the Cammy figure is like almost 20 years old. So keep that in mind as we're doing the review. The thing is, SOTA figures were so far ahead of their time that they, at least some of them, I'm going to say most of them, hold up well enough that this is a perfectly fair thing to do. Some of them don't, and some of these are going to be just landslide victories. But I think that might be the case for some of the SOTA figures also. I think T-Hawk and Sagat are going to be tough to beat, for sure. Maybe even, well, there's a bunch. So anyway, let's get into it. Let's go ahead and get her off the stand and take a closer look. Okay, so if you didn't see the Guile video, I'll just give you a quick idea of what we're going to be doing. I'm going to go through both of the figures, talking about the aesthetic, the accessories, the articulation, and see which one comes out on top, which is the one you want to get if you're in the market. And I will do nothing of the sort when it comes to hiding my biases or preferences. I love the SOTA Street Fighter line. I think it probably still is the best action figure line at the time it came out. Meaning like Marvel Legends coming out now versus JADA coming out now. JADA's probably the best right now, but I think at the time SOTA was ahead of everything else by a larger margin. That's what I'm saying. But JADA's still up there right now as kind of doing the same thing. But I do love SOTA. I also love the JADA line, so don't get me wrong. I have no real biases in terms of which one I want to win. I'm going to give you guys the information as objectively as I can, but I do have a thing for the SOTA line. It's not like I just picked them up to do this review. Okay, and so these are 20 years old, roughly. These are brand new, and they came out at about the same price point, comparatively speaking, you know, compared to other lines at the time. So it's as fair a comparison as you can make other than the age. But that doesn't actually hold SOTA back in a lot of ways. So let's get into it with the aesthetic. I will start with the SOTA figure. Oh, there's one other thing I want to mention. I had one commenter say something about me losing focus in the review the other day for the Guile thing. Yeah, it's because I have to pick a spot to focus on, and since I have two figures, the spot's moving a lot, and it's just, you know, I'm doing my best here, guys. This isn't an official, like, professional production studio. I'm in my basement. So I'll do my best. Please bear with me. Okay, so let's start on the aesthetic portion with the SOTA Cammy. As a lot of people mentioned in the Guile video, SOTA has paint on everything, and that makes it look better. That's one of the key points I mentioned too. Everything on these figures is painted, and that helps a lot. So I'll get that right out of the way. It has a much better look overall, just in terms of the finish. Okay, I'm not talking about whether the paint is applied well or the overall proportion or anything like that, just in the finish. Paint looks better than bare plastic 99% of the time, and that is true here. However, this Cammy figure, let's say for Guile was like one of the best SOTA figures released. Maybe not the best, but one of them. He's also one of the best JADA figures, so that was interesting. Cammy is one of the best JADA figures, but she's just one of the SOTA figures. She's not one of their best. So she's not going to probably be doing a lot of strong punching here. It's going to be a lot of light punches. So she is painted. That's a good thing. Her shading is significantly less than we saw on Guile. There's almost none. Like, it's there, but it's super subtle if it's there at all. Her paint job is not exceptionally clean. One of the problems with the SOTA line was a lack of consistency from figure to figure. Some of them were excellent, and then some of them definitely missed the mark. Her paint job is definitely not as good. It's not as impressive. Like I said, the shading thing is an issue. It's nice that she's painted, but her paint job is just not remarkable. I mean, it's there, like the little socks, for instance, they're there, but there's not a lot going on to really sink your teeth into. Now, there are a few places, like the emblem on her hat, that's awesome. The hair, the paint job on the hair is some of the best hair paint that has ever been done on an action figure at this price point. It's excellent. That looks really, really good. But the rest of it just leaves a lot to be desired, just in terms of paint. Now, in terms of sculpt, well, the SOTA line tends to aim for the Udon Comics look, and this one is even more pushed into that anime style direction. Her face is certainly not really in line with much of anything. What's there is well executed, well enough. You can see the eyes. They just sort of really did a good job with the eyes, but they're very anime. Like very, very sculpt-wise, paint-wise, everything. It's clean, but it is what it is. There's a hole in her ear for an accessory. We'll get to that. But yeah, so she does have some shading. The paints are okay. The sculpt is, if you might like it. Like, it's not terrible for what they were going for, but there's not a lot going on here in terms of heavy detail. The gauntlets are really nicely done. The finer details look good on here. And then again, the hair is excellent. The boots are okay. The boots are pretty good. But the figure as a whole is just severely lacking compared to, say, the Guile that we reviewed the other day. For its time, it was really good, but this one is not one of the ones that holds up very well over time. It's really just the hair, as far as being a standout thing, and I guess the hat emblem. The rest, not so much. Now, let's talk about this figure. It's not like everything on this figure is great. For instance, as I already mentioned, there's a lot of raw, bare plastic. The problem with raw bare plastic is it looks cheap. You can't really control the finish, and for instance, when you have issues like this, these lines in her in the molding, this is on all of them. It's not just on mine. It's right there, it's over here, it's in a few other places. If you paint it, that doesn't matter at all. They didn't paint it. It is just bare green plastic with some shading on it, which is not bad shading, and like the paint job's clean enough here, and they actually did a pretty clean paint job around the edges, but they don't have that overall finish quality that JADA had in terms of having paint on the plastic, or I mean that SOTA had. So there's that. The camouflage is kind of like, let's just say, they're different styles. I prefer the JADA one, but you could pick either one. Like, they're both just splotches of green on her skin. There's nothing particularly, there we go with the focus, particularly focused about the paint job. So there's that. But yeah, the skin tones definitely look better on the painted figures if you ask me, and I think if you ask anybody. The transparent, because PVC is, you know, semi-transparent, just a little bit, unpainted plastic doesn't look as nice as painted. And I've seen customs of the JADAs that look way better because they're painted. But the sculpt on this figure blows the other one out of the water in every way, because that one doesn't have the details that Guile had. It didn't have the cool musculature. It didn't have really anything. The only thing that one does better, two things, well, I guess three if you want to count it. The gloves are a tighter sculpt on the SOTA figure. These are fairly soft sculpt. The boots, though not to the same degree, same situation. Boots are fairly soft sculpt. And then the hair is not sculpted anywhere near as well detailed. And then, of course, the paint is an obvious issue here. And I'm not talking about the colors, to be clear. Some people were mentioning that the Guile paint job on SOTA was better because it was darker. That's not what I was talking about. I was talking about the fact that there's paint and the execution. You can pick the lighter versus darker thing if you want to. Obviously, that's a difference, but they're both reasonably accurate for certain versions. I'm talking about the actual finish and the way things look, not the preferential stuff. Like, if you like the bright yellow, that's fine, but it's still bare plastic with a little bit of shading on it as opposed to this. And then the sculpt is obviously a way different situation. So that's what I'm talking about there. Her hat is missing some detail. She does have a fairly cartoonish face, also an anime-ish face, but that's what JADA's going for, so it doesn't stand out, and you can argue that that's a good thing. So yeah, I think in the aesthetic department, other than there not being as much paint on this figure, the SOTA figure is found lacking. I think the JADA one pretty much blows it out of the water, other than the hair. That's the only thing that really stands out. Sure, the gloves and boots could be better, but that's really it. Put some paint on here, and a slightly tighter hair sculpt, and this wins by a mile. SOTA just, this figure does not hold up as well. Not anywhere near as well as Guile. Now, as far as the accessories go, the SOTA Cammy comes with a neutral head, with a winking alternate head. She has two fist hands, two of the kind of karate chop style hands, one peace sign hand, and the Dragon Ball Scouter that goes in her ear. So that's a pretty good spread of accessories. The JADA Cammy comes with a neutral head, a yelling head. So instead of the winking, we have the yelling head. We'll still call that a wash, though. I think the yelling head is more useful. She does have 2 fist hands and the 2 karate chop hands. That's a wash. That's still even. No more hands, no scouter, but she does have the effect part. So the real comparison here is either the winking head and the yelling head. I think the yelling head wins just by a little bit, and that's kind of subjective, but I think practically it's more useful. And then we do have the peace sign hand and the scouter versus the effect part. I'm going to call it officially a wash because there's utility for both sides. I think the peace sign hand and the wink, that's cool that they included that. That's pretty good. I think the effect part for me is a more useful thing. If I was going to choose, I would pick the JADA figure. I like the accessories more for JADA. I don't need the peace sign or the scouter as much. I like the effect part and the yelling head. They're way more useful. But I could see an argument made for the other things, and technically quantity is about the same, let's say, so I'll call it officially a wash, but also kind of officially, but largely subjectively, JADA takes the accessory department also. It is worth noting that there is a variant for the SOTA Cammy that's from Cannon Spike that comes with different things, and that's really cool, but that's kind of irrelevant for this video. So yeah, I'm gonna say kind of a wash, but JADA takes it at least by a little bit, and personally for me, JADA takes it by a lot in the accessory department also. And now we come to the articulation section, which, if you watched the Guile one, it was kind of a big deal. And on this one, I think it might be also. We'll start with the 20-year-old figure first. I think it's only fair. We give her fair shake. The neck is on double ball peg, and it's fine. It's actually pretty functional. It's okay. It's not the best range ever, but it will work. The hair is a nice soft material. We don't see this material. It's a very, very soft PVC. It could be some other kind of weird thing, but I'm pretty sure it's just soft PVC. We don't see this getting used anywhere near enough. It's such an excellent material. Costs more to use, but this is great. But it's not articulated. They're just glued in. Okay, for the shoulders, you can see it plainly, just little ball hinges. So plenty of range there, of course, but it's just a ball hinge. So there's that. Bicep swivel is there. Double jointed elbow. By the way, remember all the times Hasbro said you can't do double jointed elbows? You can. It's fine. You can do it. And it works fine. Yeah, they're pinned, but they are double jointed elbows, so that works. Wrists have a swivel and a hinge. So the hinge is stuck on that. I just pulled this figure out of storage. I haven't seen it in 10 years at least, so some of the joints might be stuck. But yeah, you have a swivel and a hinge, so that's fine. You do have an ab crunch on this figure. It's not the worst ab crunch we've ever seen. It is old, and you can see the pegs for the ab crunch, which you didn't see that in too many figures back, or even back in the day you didn't. Nowadays you definitely don't. Yeah, it's an ab crunch that's fairly limited. Not the worst looking thing from the front, but it is there, and you get a waist twist, which they tried to place it in the most round area so you don't get that weird shelving situation. So I'll give them credit, but it is still a waist twist ab crunch. Does not help the figure to look good. For the hips, they're ball hinges. Somebody mentioned that they're Y joints. They are not. They are straight ball hinges. You can just bring them forward, but there's no room. They didn't cut enough away on her pelvis to let her legs really do much. They move some, and she's not especially loose. There's decent range, and at the time it was acceptable, but most of the SOTA figures are not known for their great range, and this one is no different. You do get a thigh swivel, double jointed knee, which is perfectly functional. It's fine. And then for the ankles, you get the ankle joint, which doesn't have as much range as I would like. Maybe you can force that a little bit more, but doesn't have a ton of range. We do get, you do get the ankle rocker. That is just the peg that lets the front half of the foot rotate, which is definitely not an ideal situation. And you get a toe hinge, which is loose and kind of worthless. So her articulation, not very good. It is enough. It is an action figure by definition, and it definitely was sufficient enough at the time. Does it hold up to even the lowest standards? Well, other than the double jointed elbows, no. I'm sorry, not really. So let's go ahead and talk about this one, which happens to be one of their better posers, not counting the lack of a butterfly joint. Oh, I spoiled part of it. All right, double ball peg for the head, which works about the same, frankly. It's probably a little bit better, but it is a double ball peg head. The hair, instead of being glued on, rotates. And theirs is pretty soft. It's not as soft, but it does rotate to help with some posability. You can technically swap out the hair pieces if you want to. I don't recommend that. Just like I said on DJ, you have a really good chance of tearing stuff. But the hair does rotate, so that's cool. For the shoulders, kind of the same situation because she doesn't have a butterfly joint, so you do just get the ball hinge. Hers is much better sculpted though, so the joint looks better and functions about the same. Now, Cammy, the SOTA Cammy goes up farther. This one can't go up higher than this. I don't think you really need it to. Yeah, you can rotate the whole thing around like this if you wanted, and that works because it's mostly a ball shape. But yeah, technically the SOTA has more range in the shoulder. This one looks way better. Bicep swivel is there. Double jointed elbow, equally functional. Pinless, that looks nice, so that's a plus. We'll talk about, we're not going to talk about the technical side of the pins versus pinless. This is a good joint though. That's all that really matters. All right, wrists have a swivel and a hinge, so it's kind of the same so far. This one looks much better, but functionally they're kind of the same. But now we have the diaphragm joint here rather than the ab crunch, which you guys know diaphragms. If you've watched my videos for any amount of time, the double ball pegs in the torso, definitely the way to go. She has at least as much range. It looks much more natural. It breaks up the sculpt much less, and you get all the additional range of leaning to the side and rotating and doing all kinds of other stuff. So this is leaps and bounds better than the ab crunch and waist twist on the SOTA. For the hips, ball pegs in here rather than a ball hinge. So they look much better in general. Should we do cake? We don't do cake ratings on figures unless we're making fun of McFarlane Toys, but we might have to do cake on Cammy just for all of you who are here for that. Anyway, the hips look much better. As far as functionality, way better range. Way better. In every direction. Every direction is significantly improved on this figure, for sure. And you still get your thigh swivel. Double jointed knees, equally functional, that's good. Her boots rotate, which is a really good thing. And then for the ankles, we have the ankle range, that's really good. Her ankle rockers are stuck, but she does have an ankle rocker. No toe hinge. No toe hinge, so they lose in that, even though the SOTA Cammy's toe hinge kind of sucks. She doesn't have one. But otherwise, her articulation just blows the SOTA one out of the water, which is really not surprising. It's 20 years newer. Way, way, way better. But if I had a takeaway from this that I think is important to consider going forward, I think on the Street Fighter figures, toe hinges are important, Jada. It would be nice for you to add that. But let's do some rounding up now, I guess. Well, okay, you know what? We'll do it. Cammy's butt on the SOTA figure, not an impressive thing. I feel bad doing this because I'm not like that sort of reviewer or collector, but I know a lot of you watching this want to see it, so I have to keep my audience happy. Her butt is not the worst from the side, but from the back it doesn't look great. And this one, though it's cut up, there's a lot more situational awareness going on back there. Jada knew what they were doing when they were sculpting this, and even when you pose the figure, the butt is not totally destroyed. So I think the Jada one takes the cake, haha, in that category also. Okay, so now it's time to do the roundup. As far as the aesthetics go, Jada's is a much better cohesive look. It matches the line that is from a lot better. It is lacking in paint in general, but what paint is there is clean. The SOTA figure has a lot of paint on it, and it looks great being painted rather than bare plastic, but it's not a good looking figure in general. The hair looks really good. The eyes are an impressive paint job, but that's certainly not enough to carry the figure through. Sculpt-wise, Jada wins in every category other than the hair and gloves and boots. The level of detail is nicer in the SOTA. As for accessories, it's kind of a tie. I would give it to Jada because the effect part and yelling head are more useful than the peace sign and the scouter, but you could make an argument there. Okay, and then for articulation, in some ways they're very similar, but in a lot of ways they're not, and the Jada one blows it out of the water. So, and cake goes to Jada also. Okay, so my final verdict on this one, it's not like Guile where it comes down to if you want articulation over sculpt and paint. It's just a hands down win for Jada. It's not even close. Unfortunately for SOTA, the Cammy figure has not aged well. It ages well enough. Even the worst of the SOTA figure still has a certain level of charm and soul to it that we don't see in modern action figures. So I'm not like saying go throw away your SOTA figures. Don't do that. They're still excellent, and they're kind of like a time capsule of a better time of action figures in a lot of ways. But in this case, the Jada one wins by a landslide. It's not even close. There's still something to it, don't get me wrong, but the JADA one is the one to pick if you had to pick one. We're not comparing the SH Figuarts figure because it's just not the same design and there's really no point, and it wasn't that good. But these are the two that we're comparing. They're the most appropriate to compare, and the JADA one wins. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. What did you think of all my different points and tidbits and things? Do you like these videos still? Are you sick of them? Do you want more? I haven't filmed any more at this point, but if you guys want them, we can do Bison, we can do Ryu, we can do Ken at this point. And pretty soon, we'll be able to do some more. But that's it for now. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, you should. I have new videos basically every single day, and I do have thousands of videos already on the channel. So make sure you come back for all of that. And in the meantime, keep collecting.